But the other story here that I wanted to touch on involves the Lucha Bros, who we have not seen in quite a while on AEW television. And the belief is, the reason for that, is because they're leaving. And because they are going to be on their way to WWE. Whether that means NXT, whether that means directly to the main roster, remains to be seen. As of right now, they're not going anywhere. Because this is the update on Penta and Rey Fenix. The current situation is as follows. They have not signed with WWE. That's number one, because there were some Twitter accounts putting out rumors about them having already been signed, a multi-year deal. They're going straight to the main roster. They're making merch. And that's bullshit. They have not signed with WWE. They are still under contract to AEW. They would not be able to even talk to WWE, let alone sign a contract with WWE. The latest, and this comes from Fightful, is that Tony Khan has extended the Lucha Bros deals. And in particular, Rey Fenix is the name that's been thrown around. But my understanding from some of these reports is that Penta has also had time tacked on. Sean Ross Sapp says that Penta would have been up by now. He would have been a free man. So the fact that if he is still there, that means that they added time onto his contract. I would guess that means injury time. I know Rey Fenix has been really banged up and injured, and he missed quite a bit of time. So for him, that's probably a pretty significant period. It's been said that it could be up to a year more that Fenix has had tacked on and that he may be stuck in AEW. Fightful Select says there was no straight answer as to the motivation of extending the Lucha Bros AEW deals outside of the company wanting to get the contracted amount of time out of them that they were signed for per the terms of their contract. It is expected by talent that they will be asked to put talent over at the very least if they are planning on leaving. Because Tony Khan has tried to re-sign them and they have said no. You know, they could have been signed to new deals by now. Clearly they want out. Clearly they're planning on going somewhere else, and we know where that is. And if that's the case, it sounds like Tony Khan may be more interested in using them to do job duty than anything else. And he also said that it's going to be a while before they are in WWE, if in fact that is where they want to go. So that's a definite change because this was talked about many weeks ago, and from the sounds of it, Tony Khan was not going to do that. And we don't hear stories about that very often, if ever, from Tony Khan, that he's tacking on injury time. That's something we heard, Vince McMahon used to do that all the time. He did it with Rey Mysterio because he was out with a number of injuries and he added months on to his contract. Usually you hear about that when it comes to WWE. This is new. This is new for Tony. So now it's either a question of I'm going to pay them to sit at home or I'm going to make them the most expensive jobbers in pro wrestling. Or if Penta were to get out of his contract before Phoenix, I suppose he could always go work as a single in WWE, which would be fine because, that was my exposure to Penta the first time was in Lucha Underground, and I thought he was great by himself. The Lucha Bros only became a thing really in AEW. They may have been doing that before Lucha Underground, but I'm just saying, as far as being on TV, Penta was doing fine on his own, before the Lucha Bros thing came to TV. But right now, it looks like both of them are pretty much stuck where they're going to be now for a while in AEW. And those are the two options. You either pay them to sit at home and do nothing for the next however many months, or you make them the most expensive job guys in the entire company. Now, this may not have been the first time that Tony Khan has done this because I was thinking about this. Jeff Hardy, I could have sworn that this happened to Jeff Hardy. Where Jeff, I don't know how much time it was, but I could have sworn that Jeff had time added to his contract for all the time that he missed. Again, I could be wrong about that, so this may not have been the first time that Tony Khan has done something like this. But there's a lot of talk about Conan. Conan is not on good terms with Tony Khan and AEW, and there's a lot of angst there, and a lot of it has to do, I think with, Tony having a working relationship with CMLL. CMLL, of course, is at war with AAA. But Conan doesn't have a lot of very nice things to say about Tony Khan or AEW in recent times. But Conan also likes to talk. And Conan, of course, is very friendly with Penta and Rey Fenix and a lot of the Mexican talent and has worked with them before and advocated for them. But he also goes on his podcast and social media And he talks. And he talks probably when he shouldn't, because sometimes it can blow back on other people, and not in a good way. And I don't know if Conan is one of these people who was talking about WWE making Lucha Bros merch. Again, that may not have been him. But he's definitely made certain comments that would lead one to believe that they were going to end up in WWE. And if you remember, Penta, not that long ago, posted a message on his Twitter because there were so many rumors going around that, Penta's telling people that they're going to WWE and telling people in the locker room that he's leaving. And he went on social media and completely contradicted it. But he did that probably because he realized, oh, shit, I don't want this to get around to Tony Khan. And then it, jeopardizes our ability to actually leave. Or, I don't want them to tack time on to my brother's contract or my contract. And ultimately, that's what Tony Khan did. So I'm reading all these different things, and it sounds to me like, first of all, Conan probably didn't do these guys any favors. That's number one. But number two, it does sound very petty. Tony Khan does have them under contract, so legally, he can do that. I mean, he's within his rights to do that. I don't generally like stuff like this. I think it's bullshit. It does seem very petty. I could completely understand Tony Khan being upset if Penta was running his mouth, Conan, whatever. And it almost was just a foregone conclusion that these guys, they're already signed, even if they're not. Like, they're already basically in WWE. They're already making plans. They're thinking about merch concepts. And then I put myself in Tony Khan's shoes. And yeah, you know what? I'd be pretty fucking pissed too, because we know how angry he's gotten in the past about WWE tampering and, Talon going over there. Jade Cargill, Jade, he went to her and said, what do you want? I'll give you what you want. And she threw a number at him, and he was willing to match it, and she left anyway. I'm sure stuff like that really gets under his skin, and he believes that WWE is doing some underhanded stuff to him and his company. So when it comes to WWE, Tony is ultra sensitive. And in a way, you can kind of understand it. But I still feel like you're taking it out on two guys, and if they don't want to be there anymore and their contracts were supposed to be up and they're planning on going somewhere else, yeah, you know what? Penta should not be running his mouth backstage if that's what he's doing. If he's going around telling people what his plans are, that was fucking stupid. That's number one. I feel like there's nobody blameless. Maybe Rey Fenix, but very few people who are blameless in this situation. Penta should not be running his mouth to anybody, publicly or privately, about what their plans are going to be. And Tony Khan extending their deals, if he's not planning on utilizing them in a meaningful way, is a fucking waste. It is a waste. Because you're going to sit them on the bench and they're going to get paid to do nothing. And it's the Miro thing I talked about last week. Miro clearly doesn't want to be there. You're not getting any value out of him. And if you're not going to push him, or he's not going to show up to fucking work, and he wants to leave, whether he's going to WWE or not, then you know what? Cut your losses and let him go and take that money and put it towards something else. And I feel the same way about Penta and Rey Fenix at this point. If Tony doesn't have any real plans for them, if he's going to put them on job duty or not use them at all and put them on the bench, which is what's happening with Ricky Starks right now and maybe others, to me, it's just a complete fucking waste. So it's an unfortunate situation. Again, Tony's within his rights to do it. I still think it's bullshit. And now we're just going to have to wait a little bit longer, because inevitable, these two are going to go to WWE, I'm sure. But it may be a while, before that happens. And, that could be a year. It could be 6 months or a year of their career wasted. Phoenix has really been banged up. So, I mean, if he's going to be sitting at home, it'll give him plenty of time to heal up. But in the meantime, they can still work independent dates. It's not like they can't work and get their name out there, even if Tony isn't doing anything with them. That's one of the big differences between WWE and AEW. Yeah, these guys can still go out there and book their own shots and get their name out there, but it's not going to be the same, if they're not on TV. So it sucks. If you're a fan of the Lucha Bros, which I am, it's just a shitty situation all around and very petty on Tony's part. But I can understand him being upset and maybe feeling disrespected if people are chattering behind his back and he feels like these guys are putting the cart before the horse and they are already got one foot out the door, and he feels like, wait a minute, I haven't gotten the return on investment that I put in here that I was expecting. So I understand the mindset, but I kind of wish they would just sit down, if they haven't already, just get in a room together, sit down and try to work this out. And he could ask him flat out, like, what's going on here? What do you guys want? How can we still do business together? And if they're not in a position where they really want to be doing business there anymore, maybe they could talk it out and come to some kind of an understanding. Maybe they could still get out of their contract sooner, right? It's not impossible to think maybe he'll change his mind, but if not, I just think it's very petty, and it's just a very shitty situation if you're a fan of the Lucha Bros. And I'm generally just not a fan of when either company does this. It doesn't matter what the initials are to me. Now, there are certain situations where maybe I would feel differently. You know, maybe if you had somebody who was severely injured, they had spinal fusion surgery, and they were under contract and getting paid, and they were literally on the shelf for like 13 months, you know, or something like that. You know what? Then I can understand the promoter saying, I'm going to tack some time on. Maybe not 13 months, but I'm going to tack on some time to try to get back something, you know, that I paid for here. But in a case like this, it's just one of those situations where try to work something out. And if these guys don't want to be there, and they have put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears already into this company, it's not as if they've been on the shelf and injured for their entire run. They are AEW originals who have been there since day one. They have been two of the most popular stars in the entire company, former tag team champions. They've been part of some of the greatest matches in the history of this company. They have put in the work, and it would suck to see their run come to an end in this way. So I'm hoping that they could come to some kind of an agreement and an understanding, and they can get all this worked out. And if they want to leave, then let them leave and move on, shake hands, and let them go their separate ways.